Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the Starline by an award-winning reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Her first book was about the collapse of Washington Mutual Bank and the Lost Bank. We welcome Kirsten Grind.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Kirsten, let's go beyond the mic. Washington Mutual, SVB. What are the similarities between the two? What are the differences?
Well, that's a great question. The biggest difference is how they failed, actually. So Washington Mutual was the biggest bank failure in U.S. history. It still is. And it really collapsed because of a number of bad mortgages it was holding because of the run-up in the housing boom in the early 2000s. It was lending recklessly to consumers. At the end of the day, it had a bank run and was taken over by regulators and sold to JP Morgan Chase. Now, Silicon Valley Bank is a pretty different story. They were basically flush with cash because during this recent growth period we had, all their customers, venture capitalists, startups, were depositing money there. And then when interest rates rose, that really hit them hard. Customers weren't depositing as much money. And then everyone kind of got worried when they signaled some bad news and started pulling their money. So that brings me to the big similarities, which was both institutions suffered from bank runs, which before the financial crisis was kind of a thing you only associated with the movies. So it's very interesting that they both, collapsed after these customer runs.
Wall Street came to the rescue. No bailout needed. 11 banks deposited $30 billion to keep First Republic Bank solvent, and UBS buys Credit Suisse for $3.2 billion. Why should people not be terrified right now?
Yeah, the headlines are really scary. It's important to, I would say, and I say this to all my friends and family, you just have to really trust the system at this point. Your deposits are insured up to $250,000. What has gotten a lot of these banks is a lot of their customers had deposits that were above that limit. That's the scary zone, right? But however, I completely agree. These are sort of mind-boggling headlines.
Your new book, Happy at Any Cost, talks about the ups and downs of the late Zappos CEO. You don't do fluff pieces, straight to the hard stuff.
I know.
So what's your next project?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I've recently been writing a bit about Elon Musk. I in fact, wrote about his plans recently to start his own town near Austin. I do have to maybe choose something that's not quite so sad and dramatic. You're right.
Author of The Last Bank, Kirsten Grind, joins us beyond the mic for the Rocky Nate. All it is 8 random questions. Answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. There is no pressure, Kirsten.
All right, sounds good.
Have you had any offers for your Washington Mutual teller doll yet?
Not yet.
Shocking. You once did the Seattle to Portland bike ride. How long did it take you to do it?
Oh, wow. Well researched. 2 days. That was back when I was in shape. Yeah.
How many books do you normally buy at one time?
Oh, I read so much. I mean, maybe 5 a week, honestly.
Just like my wife, who could go through a book a day. What's the best thing about your sons?
They are just so fun. They love getting out and just doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
What was the last gift you gave your chocolate lab?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm always giving him food. I think I got him a bone, one of those giant bones.
Where's the best place to go on the Cal Poly State campus?
Oh my gosh, now you're going old school. Gosh, it's been so long since I've been there, I couldn't even tell you. Sorry.
So what's your favorite popcorn topping?
I like it plain, no butter. I know, I'm a weird one.
And the best thing about your husband?
Oh, he is just such a patient, creative guy. He loves making stuff with the kids, like they just made a go-kart, for example.
Author of The Lost Bank, Kirsten Grind, joins us beyond the mic. Kirsten, what do you see that could happen that will bring stability in the market in the next 30 days?
Well, I think what just happened with Credit Suisse is actually, while the headlines are scary, really a good sign because it means that they're shored up and there's kind of a rescue plan there. So that to me is a good sign. Another good sign is the markets, although I haven't checked in the last half an hour, seem to be stabilizing a little bit. I don't want to call anything about the stock market, but those are kind of things that I look towards, and anything that the regulators are kind of doing to shore up the financial system. That's what I'm looking toward.
So what are the warning signs that people should be looking out for?
I gotta say, anytime a bank executive comes out and says publicly or in an internal meeting that gets leaked, our finances are fine, we have this much capital, we have this much blah, 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 a little warning bell goes off a little bit in my head, because if they are at the point where they're having to reassure people and customers, I don't want to cause panic, but I do definitely pay attention to that.
Which fact that you researched was the one that just shocked you?
Oh, well, Washington Mutual's entire story was like that. I actually at one point drove around to meet some of their customers who took mortgages from the bank in terrible neighborhoods in Los Angeles. And these people had no idea what they had signed. I mean, literally, they could have signed away, like their belongings, and they had no idea what the mortgage terms were anything like that. And so I just couldn't believe the recklessness of that whole situation.
It's time for One Big Question with Kirsten Grind beyond the mic. Kirsten, what's the one thing you would tell yourself if you could go back when you were the intern at the Colorado Springs Gazette?
Oh, well, I would probably tell myself to just keep working hard, because when you're an intern anywhere, it's hard to see the light at the end of that sometimes.
What scares you financially?
I think because I went through the financial crisis, it definitely worries me buying property in a downturn in a way that I'm sure Warren Buffett would not advise me to be worried about. I just saw so many of my own friends get caught up in the housing collapse back then that definitely worries me overextending into property.
Interesting. She likes popcorn without butter, gave her lab a big bone, and wants you to read her books, The Lost Bank and Happy at Any Cost. Author Kirsten Grind, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And that, my friends, is a Beyond the Mic shortcut.